Madam Chair, the August 24th, 2023 meeting of the Regional Advisory Council does have a quorum, and you may proceed with call to order and introductions.
Okay, we're going to call the meeting to order, and we're going to have the Regional Advisory Council introduce themselves. I'm Marilyn Amassey, and I'm chair of the committee. And let's start down here.
My name's Laura Cronick. I'm with the Town of Monument.
I'm Bee Babbitt. I'm past chair and represent Northern El Paso County.
Thank you. I'm Joanne Ruth, Colorado Springs.
Debbie Levin Stankiewicz, Colorado Springs.
Bill Bowles, Park County. Oops.
Jen Nemo, Colorado Springs. I'm with Colorado Community Health Alliance for Region 7 Medicaid, Park, Teller, and El Paso County.
And board members, we've apparently got the most sensitive mics from our office, so you can leave them at the end of the table and speak from your seating. You don't have to pull it towards you, so super sensitive today.
And we have those that are online. Ask them to introduce themselves. Jared, would you help with this?
Madam Chair, I'll be happy to. So we'll start with Eric Bidwell.
Good morning, Eric Bidwell with the Department of Human Services here in Colorado Springs, serving El Paso County.
Thank you. Jim Woodard.
Jim Woodard, representing Teller County.
Thank you. Maria Cordova.
Maria Cordova. I'm the Community Outreach Coordinator at the Independence Center, and we serve Park, Teller, and El Paso County.
Thank you. And Rosemary Jaramillo.
Hi, Rosemary Jaramillo. I'm with the Alzheimer's Association, and I also am on the membership committee for the RAC and serving in Colorado Springs.
And that is all who is online.
Thank you. Thank you all for joining us. This is great to see a number of faces and a head count. I would like to establish agenda approval. May I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Debbie Levin Stankiewicz. Debbie Levin Stankiewicz. I'll approve the agenda.
Oh, second.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Madam Chair, I have one request of an adjustment, if I may. On 6D and E, requesting a flip of those so that you are 6D, and I will give my report in 6E and flow into our panel discussion. I would also like to recommend that we complete our meeting by 11:45, as we have planned a special luncheon with our agency guests today.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Madam Chair, if I could just ask if, based on those agenda changes, if the original motion and the seconder are good with those amendments.
All right, we'll have to verbally.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Call for the vote.
Vote.
All in favor, say.
All in favor, say yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Any opposed?
Any opposed?
Motion carries.
Motion is carried. And we have the minutes. Do we need to approve the minutes from our meeting last month? May I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I make a motion to approve the minutes for the July 27th meeting.
And your name?
Bee Babbitt.
Thank you, B. A second?
Debbie Levin Stankiewicz, and I'll second.
Thank you. Motion is carried.
We have a motion and a second. We need to vote. All in favor?
All in favor? Say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carried. Number 3 is consent items.
That was the approval.
Number 4 is public comments, and I'm not aware that anyone has requested to make a public comment. Is that, Jared, is that correct?
That is correct. We didn't receive any advance requests for public comment. If anyone's online who would like to make a public comment, please use the raise hand function at this time. And stalling a little bit for time, I'm not seeing any hands jumping up or anyone looks like they're coming off of mute or coming onto the camera. So I believe that with that, we can proceed to the next item.
And number 5 is action items.
Action items.
No action items.
No
for
action
the day.
items today, Madam Chair.
And then we're going to go on to our information. This is moving quickly. And our presentations will take place later. Membership subcommittee, Rosemary, do you have any report to make?
The only thing we have is Melissa is, I don't know if she's scheduled it yet or she's scheduling an intake with a new member, and that's the only thing we have currently.
Well, for those of you on screen, Melissa does confirm that she completed that. Was at the orientation with our newest member, Laura Cronick from Town of Monument.
Yes. Thank you, Melissa.
Jen, how about strategic review subcommittee?
The newest update is we'll be meeting after today's meeting and reviewing the approved 4-year plan and seeing how that aligns with some of the presentations that come today and how we move forward. So very excited about that.
Thank you. My report is that we're here. We're here in Park County. Isn't that great? I really enjoy coming up here. I've had the opportunity to read a newspaper article that is of interest to me, and I thought it might be of interest to you. And that is that there's a state tax deduction for doing changes in your homes for people with disability. In other words, it can be deducted from your taxes. So if anything has been done in your home or you know someone else that has done so, please pass this information on. I'll leave a phone number and everything for you later. But it goes from the year 2019 to 2023. So within any of those years, if you spend up to $5,000, not cumulative, but in any of those years, you can redo those taxes and get some money back. Okay, your turn.
All right. Thank you, Madam Chair. And we are happy to provide that information afterwards as well, since that runs tax years 2019 to 2023. So I'm going to, again, just say a huge thank you for being hosted in Park County. We had, in the years leading up to 2020, the year that shall not be named, we were extending some of our meetings out to Park County, and as has been mentioned, we also serve our funding through Teller County and El Paso County as well. And so we had the years leading up to 2020, we were bringing some of these regional advisory council meetings to Park County, and we're so thrilled to be able to be back. Last year we held it in Fair Play, and of course this year here in Deer Creek at the Fire Center. So we were very tickled to be with you today. As part of my director's report, I thought there's less there than usual, because I'm going to be rolling right into kicking off our panel discussion. And so what I thought I would share is a little bit more about who the Pikes Peak Area Agency on Aging is, how we operate, a little bit more about who we are, what we do, why we come to Park County, who is this group of folks and what do they do? But also just wanted to make sure that you're aware that a couple of things that we do is information and assistance directories and information assistance guides. And I see last year's book there. So we've got the fresh one for you. But our yellow book, let's see, is that on camera? No, that's not. There we go. Our yellow book is our information and assistance directory. This is for to provide a directory of services across El Paso, Teller, and Park County, but also statewide resources and nationwide resources. And so this is an excellent resource for our older adult population. We also now produce it in Spanish. And so friends, family members, neighbors, folks from church whose first language is Spanish or would be more comfortable looking up this information, it is now available in Spanish. For those of you who are here in the building with us today, I do have several boxes of these, and I'd be happy to get those to you. There are also some in the back of the room at the head table. So please feel free to take what we have. And if you would like more, we're very happy to bring those to you as well. And I use that word very intentionally. I don't expect you to come to Colorado Springs to our office and pick them up. If you want some, it's just a phone call. We love making sure that we get up here to visit with partners and our funding providers and that kind of thing. So we're very happy to bring those to you or coordinate getting them to you. I know one of our board members, Bill Bowles, he loves to haul yellow books. So if he's down here for something and we know either himself or me, we'll make sure we get these to you. Another new directory that is new for us is a mobility guide, and it's titled Guide to Getting Around the Pikes Peak Region. The interesting thing is there might be a natural assumption that this is around the human service providers and the bus service in Colorado Springs, but it is far more extensive than that, and there is a specific Park County section. And so we would encourage you to take a look at this. If you have additional information that you would like to see in updates, please get that to us. Our mobility coordinator, Laura Cruz, and a variety of volunteers spend a lot of time making calls, visits, meetings, making sure that service providers or transportation providers were listed in here. But as anything, there could very well be someone that got missed or a service that we're not aware of or familiar with during the production of this book. So please take a look at this. Again, there's some on the back table and some in the box. You are welcome to take everything that we've got, and we are happy to bring you more. And so this is also in the process of being translated into Spanish. And for both the Yellow Book and the Mobility Guide, these are also available once they're completed and ready for production, get posted to our website. So if you don't have one on hand, but you know that you need to pull something from there and you have internet access, you are welcome to jump on there. We do not trademark or copyright these books. You may print bits and parts or the whole thing if that's what you need. But frankly, if you need the whole thing, give me a call. I'll bring you some, or direct you to another agency where they might be held. So be aware that, like I said, the mobility guide is being translated into Spanish. It will be printed, and we will make sure that our partners get some of those as well. So I thought I'd share, for sake of some background, to help as we start moving into our panel discussion, who is the Pike, who are the Pikes Peak, who's our grammar person here? There we go. What is the Pikes Peak Area Agency on Aging? So this is the board, this is the kind of the boring part of what we do and what I get to share, but I hope it'll help kind of lead the discussions and help us understand who we are and what we do and why we're here for our meeting today. So the Area Agency on Aging, specifically the Pikes Peak Area Agency on Aging, that's us, my staff and I, we serve and administer federal and state funding into Park, Teller, and El Paso counties. Now that federal funding starts out with the Administration on Community Living within the Federal Department of Health and Human Services. We were enacted into law in the as part of the Civil Rights Act in the 1960s. Thank you. And became part of the state process in 1974. So a little side note, especially to my RAC members with us, we will be celebrating 50 years as an area agency on aging next year in 2024. So be watching. I'm not the party planner. I just, we'll figure out something fun to do to recognize the area agency on aging, as well as the work that we do with our providers. So the federal funding comes through the State Unit on Aging, which is a division of the Colorado Department of Human Services. That gets mingled with state funding called the State Fund for Senior Services, and then is distributed to 16 AAAs across the state of Colorado. So like I said, with those 16, some of us are part of councils of government, which is our Pikes Peak Area Council of Governments. That's our structure. Some are parts of county and usually Department of Human Services structure across the state. And then there are two within the state of Colorado that are 501c3 nonprofits, and they're overseen by a board of directors as any other 501c3 nonprofit might. So along with the Older Americans Act, which is the legislation that was written into law in the 1960s, there are specific mandates as to how the funds provided into each AAA may be used and for what services. And so sometimes we get some questions from folks, well, why don't you cover rent? Why don't you pay for housing? The Older Americans Act doesn't allow us to do that. That mandate is not there, and so we are not allowed to use our funding that way. So we have very specific core areas plus some additional areas of service. But the number one goal across all of the allowances of the funding, the mandates of the funding, and the actual funding itself is to enable our older adults over the age of 60, which is the only qualifier over the age of 60, allow them, those individuals to live happy and healthily at home as long as possible. And so when we think about those services, we think about meals and transportation. We think about low vision supports. We think about low hearing and hard of hearing and deaf supports. We think about all the programs like that, but then we also think about legal supports. As we get older, we think about the changes in our income, the changes in our retirement funds. We think about having access to legal aid and legal supports. And so we contract, for example, with Colorado Legal, who provides those, and their structure is a little bit different than the three counties under the AAA. But in this case, all three of our counties do have access to those services as well. So that funding comes through. We work on a 2-year contract cycle with our providers. The funding is announced through an RFP, which is called a request for proposal. And organizations can read up all they need to. They can ask us all kinds of questions. We do some training on the front end even before their application is submitted so that they know what they're getting into when it comes to state and federal funding. And so they're prepared as much as possible. But we have staff who provide support, technical support, program support, making sure that they are in line with the requirements of the funding. And so for us, sometimes we're asked, well, why don't you do this service, or why don't you go there? And many times it's because we may partner with someone, or we may coordinate with an organization, or we may bring the need to the public or in public meetings where we can make collaborative referrals. And so sometimes we may not do the services ourselves or through one of our providers. Currently, we do about 5 services internally within our office. That's primarily the long-term care ombudsman services, our information and assistance services, our case management, and some of our voucher home care services that are done within El Paso County. We also have our Family Caregiver Support Center, which is available to all 3 counties. And again, the primary qualifier is that someone within either the relationship that's seeking services or directly receiving the services is 60 years of age or older. And so in the case of Park County, for example, while the AAA does not do direct services within Park County, we contract currently with the Park County Senior Coalition to receive funding for a variety of services. And I'm not going to steal Penny's thunder. And so we'll get to that as part of our Q&A and our discussions today. We have a new, we have contracted with the Park County Senior Coalition for many, many years, and very happy with the services they're able to provide. And as you might imagine, they're able to provide services while not having a bus, not having a home care agency here in Park County. They do a lot of their services through the voucher system. And so as we move along, if we need clarification on that, sometimes you might hear that language used as client directed or neighbor to neighbor. And I think the neighbor to neighbor probably explains it best, but we can talk about the technical side of things of, well, how does someone get paid if they're driving someone to the doctor or going grocery shopping? So we can answer all those questions. But so we administer the funds that come into Park County that enable those services. With this current contract period, we've also started working with I just drew a blank. I'm so sorry. Mount Evans Hospice and Home Care to provide foot care clinics. Right now, they are actually located outside of Evergreen in the Denver metro area, but they come down the 285 corridor into Bailey and Shawnee right now. And so, that is a excellent first step with an organization that we've never contracted with before, and enable them to provide those kind of services. They are foot care clinics, but if you've heard their presentations with us before, it's far more in depth than that. It's a well check and some other light health checks, but enables them to be in contact with that older adult and to make sure that they have services they may need and get referrals to them. So we're really excited to have been able to begin that contracting process. So that's who we are. The folks that are with me here at the table, along with those members who are online with us, our board members who are online, are the Regional Advisory Council. And part of our federal mandate is that we have input and collaboration and participation by citizens. And so this is what's considered our citizen advisory group. And so as you can see around the table, at least 50% of our makeup is around 50% of our makeup is at least those who are old enough to also receive our services. And I am not going to point anyone out. But that is crucial. That is crucial for us to make sure that, the staff has a lot of experience. I mean, I'm thinking of just the 3 or 4 of us and a couple of RAC members who are currently in the workaday. We've never done the math, but hundreds of years in older adult services, but we're not 60 yet. We're not living. We don't have the life experience that some of our members do. And we're so pleased that we have a very active and engaged citizen advisory group. And so our regional advisory council members, as you saw here with a couple of our subcommittees, serve in several capacities. We have our membership group headed by Rosemary Jaramillo from the Alzheimer's Association. We have Jen Nemo at the end to my left, who serves as the chair for the Strategic Review Subcommittee. You'll hear that referred to as SRS. And we will explain more about that as we get into our work today. We also have another subcommittee, which those who receive funding really love to make sure that they're staying tied in, and that's our Technical Review Subcommittee. And so the Technical Review Subcommittee, or TRS, reviews the requests for funding that come in during our RFP process and are engaged in helping make those final decisions that get the funding decisions that get and for that funding that gets distributed across our 3 counties. And so we have a very active and engaged board and citizens advisory group. Before I get into the 4-year plan, which is part of 7 in our discussion items, I do want to recognize staff that is with us today. And I think we have at least one staff member who is online who's called in. So I appreciate that. So again, my name is Jody Barker. I'm the director of the Area Agency on Aging. We also have Melissa Martz, who is our program development administrator. We have Melody Hanna, who is our program support and contracts administrator. We also have Sylvia. What is your last name? Aguila. So Sylvia Aguila, and I apologize because she's just been with us a couple weeks now with the Pikes Peak Area Council of Governments. She's kind of observing today because she is an AmeriCorps Vista volunteer who is going to be working with us in this coming year in our Futures Forum, which is part of PPACG, looking at economic and infrastructure vitality across the region and working with other regions to improve the quality of life of the Pikes Peak region. And so we're really happy that she could join us for our meetings today. I have one case manager, ship counselor who called in today, Barbara Sigmund. So Barbara, thank you for calling in. Jared, do we have any other staff online?
We do not. At least I'm not seeing anyone else.
All right. Thank you so much. And that is the voice of Jared Werner. He is our PPACG Public Information Officer and a tech guru who has set up our meeting today. So we really thank him for his time. He, in fact, came up last week to check out the space and to plan accordingly so that we could have a very professional meeting and audio visual experience today. So thank you, Jared, for your time with us today. With that, I see that I'm being waved by Melissa.
I just wanted to mention to the folks in the room and especially in the audience here today that we are always looking for new members on our Regional Advisory Council, especially from Park County. I have a little flyer that I'll hand around, and if anyone is interested in having more of a conversation about what it means to be on the Regional Advisory Council, I'm happy to talk with folks. Or if you know friends or neighbors or other people that it might be a good fit for them to be on the committee, please talk to me. And as you can see, folks can dial in and do it remotely, so you do not have to drive to Colorado Springs. But we love to see you when you can. And just wanted to remind everybody that we are open for more members from Park County to come join our Regional Advisory Council. Thanks.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. So I thought with this, we'd move right into number 7 on the discussion items as we talk about our PPAAA, that's the Pikes Peak Area Agency on Aging, 4-year plan. So as part of our federal mandate, we must put together a 4-year plan. And the easiest way to think about that is it's a strategic planning process, and it ultimately becomes a strategic plan. Therefore, we have our strategic review subcommittee, and that's our tie-in there, because that 4-year plan, we are very conscientious that it's not a one and done. We do a bunch of meetings, we produce a 208-page report, and then put it on a shelf somewhere. That is not the plan. That is not the plan. First of all, we're federally mandated, like I mentioned, to put this plan together. And part of that is some of you may be familiar with a survey that went out. That survey was called the CASOA, and it went out across the entire state. So all 16 area agencies on aging participated in that survey. Then we went to every region and a variety of towns and communities across the 3 counties. We're mandated to do a minimum of 3. We did 8 of those. 2 of those were held in Park County, one right down here at the Shawnee. Melissa, what was the building? It was the little community center, the Shawnee Community Center. Park County Community Center. Perfect. Aunt Shawnee. Yes. So thank you for clarifying that. It was the Park County Community Center at Shawnee. And so fantastic opportunity there to visit with residents of kind of this side of Park County. We also hosted one in Fairplay as well. And we had folks who were able to call in from the library in Guffey. And so technology, while sometimes we just want to, we don't like it, but it really enabled us to reach much further and wider than we might have otherwise. And so it can be a blessing. But along with those community outreach meetings and community conversations, and I want to clarify, they were conversations. We had those were facilitated by Dr. B. Babbitt. She was our chair last year. She facilitated, moderated those conversations. We took copious notes and lots of opportunities for folks to tell us what their priorities were, their concerns. And so we had a bunch of leading questions, and then we sat back and took a lot of notes, and we asked a lot of questions. Again, despite the years that staff and the Regional Advisory Council members who participated have in older adult services, direct services. I don't live in Shawnee. I don't live in Bailey. I don't live in Fairplay. Now, when I was growing up, those were the towns I went to once a month because they were the big towns. I grew up in a town of 700 folks. So, I love the rural areas and I get that, but I don't live that today. And so it's very important for us to hear from those folks that live and are experiencing those issues and those concerns. And so we were able to take the information from the survey, the information from those conversations. We had another 20 plus follow-up meetings with members of the Regional Advisory Council, as well as our staff and others across the community to continue the development of the 4-year area plan. And so that was put put together. This is been now approved by the state of Colorado, our state unit on aging administrators, and is going into print. And so we will have members for a printed piece for partners. But it will also, I believe this is already online. And so you are welcome to access this anytime to take a look at it if you want to delve into some of the numbers and the observations and information that we heard during our meeting. But I thought we'd just really highlight before we start the panel discussion itself is a greater understanding of the challenges across our region. And so we developed what we call a primary blueprint of action. And a lot of those were around transportation. I think that's something that we can agree on, that regardless of where you live, whether it is in Colorado Springs, where we think we have a lot of services, do those services meet the specific needs that I may have at any given time? All the way to Fairplay, Bailey, along the 285 corridor, across Park County, what are the transportation needs? And so we heard a lot of great information. We heard a lot of great suggestions too, that I'm not sure we would ever be able to put into place, like allowing four-wheelers on certain and side-by-sides and razors on certain types of roads where they're not allowed right now because it's more convenient. I get that. But we also talked about the challenges that someone in Park County may experience if they don't have clinical services, and we know that that's a big challenge. Clinic services, doctors' visits, hospital visits, and that kind of thing. And so there was a lot of discussion around refining transportation services, increasing access, making sure that the service providers who are already here, everything from bus staying to local services, understand the opportunities for coordination of those services. We also talked around caregiver support. We recognize that individuals, whether here, because this has been your home, Park County has been your home for all of your life and your parents' life and your grandparents' life before that, or you're newly retired to Park County, you want to make sure that whatever your circumstances dictate around caregiving, for example, can be met. And how does that happen if there isn't an agency or a business who is providing that service? And so we talked about caregiver supports and how to increase those, how to recognize the needs. One thing that we've recognized over the years is sometimes if we're providing care for a family member, it's because we're their spouse, we're their child, we're their parent, and we don't call ourselves caregivers. And so sometimes there's that, okay, I have to get into the mentality of I'm a caregiver. Yes, I may be a spouse, I may be a family member, but if I'm a caregiver, what services can I access to help me provide that care to that individual? And so sometimes there's a little bit of background education that we do as well. We also talked about what case management might look like. For us, we also have a service because it's part of our funding discussion around material aid. What does that mean? Well, specifically for Park County, it's a way for us to provide funding into services that we don't do in El Paso County, for example. One of those that Penny could explain further here in a little bit is a cord of wood delivered to someone's home because they still heat with wood. We can fund that through the Older Americans Act. We don't really do that in El Paso County. We don't do that in Colorado Springs. But through Park County Senior Coalition, we can bring funds to Park County Senior Coalition to deliver a cord of wood, to do a handyman service. Just a lot of home modifications for folks, to what I mentioned earlier, to stay safely at home as long as possible. But we also talked about preserving the housing. So you came up here in the 60s, 70s, 80s, you retired here 10 years ago. How do we make sure that that home is still something that you can stay in as long as you are able to, as long as you want to? We also talked about case management or around evictions, eviction protection. What does that look like? That gets into a lot of legal, and that's why we provide funding into our Colorado Legal Services. A big one that's big right now is around broadband. Probably one of the biggest frustrations that I have, and you saw me clench my fists earlier when we talked about technology. It's great, but you really wish you could throw it out of a window sometimes. But the challenge is that when it works, it's great. When it doesn't, it becomes a barrier. And that barrier may not just be a phone call or checking your email, checking in with family, friends, maybe grandkids that don't live here anymore. Whatever that scenario may look like, that's one thing. That's quality of life. But part of the quality of life consideration is so many organizations are moving to telehealth, telemedicine, called a little bit different, depending on who you're with or what you're doing. But that depends on quality broadband and bringing those internet services into communities. That's not something that our direct funding allows for. So a little bit, when you think of the Older Americans Act was written in 1964, long before broadband. It was enacted in 1974 in the state of Colorado, long before broadband, long before internet. The last time the Older Americans Act was updated was 1988. When computers were as big as your desk, if there was a home computer. And so there's a lot of efforts right now at the federal level of updating our Older Americans Act and our mandates to recognize the changes in direct services. At the end of the day, though, we don't expect that broadband and internet services, they may be addressed, but they may not have funding provided for, and we really don't expect that to change. However, this is a part of what we do in our role in collaborating with state, federal government, federal funds, state funds to educate and bring broadband into areas that are challenged with that right now. We have another committee under the Area Agency on Aging called the Commission on Aging, and they do represent all three counties. And though that commission is working on raising awareness around broadband, and so we're really excited about that. We also talked about education, just knowing what's out there. What services do folks have access to that they may not be aware of? Many of us cringe when we hear best kept secret. We don't want to be the best kept secret. We want it to roll off your tongue like Coke and Kleenex. We want you to know exactly what is an area agency on aging. And unfortunately, it's not something that's just reserved to Colorado or the Pikes Peak region. This is something that is recognized as a challenge and a barrier nationwide with other AAAs. But that's something that we're working on as well, is increasing our outreach and developing, sorry, Jared, increasing our conversations around our region so that more folks can understand what's available, even if it's not something that we fund directly. We want to make sure folks are aware of other organizations across the region doing good work. So we talked about education around prevention of abuse and neglect. While that was primarily a conversation around our ombudsman services, which provide advocacy for those residents of long-term care. We know that in Park County right now, there is no long-term care. But even though an ombudsman would not be someone who would step into an issue, it's very important that we educate our older adults about being aware of abuse and neglect and how to access help. And so that was a big part of our conversation as well. We also talked around retirement planning and Medicare and Social Security and what that entails and how to access information. Did you know that you can call our office? And it's right there on the front page of our yellow book, the 471-2096 number. You can call and talk to a Medicare specialist. You don't have to buy anything from us. We're not selling anything in the first place, but you can provide a little bit of personal information. They can take a look at what your needs are, what your priorities are, and help you come up with a plan of action. And that might be recommendations of specific plans as we start thinking about open enrollment coming up around Medicare in October. And that'll run 7 weeks between October and December. But you can call us and say, I'm not sure. I think I need to change. My doc has given me a new prescription and I'm not sure I can afford it. What are my options? And they can sit down and figure out what those options are for you so that you can make a fully educated, non-sales approach to making that decision for yourself and what's best for you and your family members. So that is just one of the many services that we offer. The priorities for Park County were fairly similar to some of our other rural areas. But in specifically, we saw that around education, making sure folks knew what services are available to them, where they can get referrals, who they should talk to if they're not sure where a service resides. Personal care, how do I make sure that I stay healthy so that I can stay at home as long as possible? Bringing chores and those kind of services. Like I said, the chore type services are can be those loads of wood that are delivered. It might be some snow removal, that kind of thing. We also talked a lot about medical care, and that involves so much, right? It involves not just access to that care, but how do we access that care? It'd be nice if there was a clinic closer to where I live, right? But how do I access that? So that involves transportation and coordination and things like that. We also talked a little bit, as I mentioned, broadband was a huge priority, making sure that folks could do research on the internet, stay in touch with their families and friends, and that kind of thing. At this point, I want to go ahead and Melissa, have I captured things that the executive committee wanted to? Fantastic. Well, I'm going to take a deep breath, get a sip of water, and we're going to go ahead and move right into our panel. And we're going to ask members of our panel to introduce themselves, their organization, and then I'll pause because then Marilyn, our chair, is going to have specific questions to ask of you so we can get to know you more. The folks in our room can hear more about who you are and those online as well. And then we'll reserve questions until the end. Okay, so everybody keep notes if you like, but we'll work through this so we recognize everyone's time. We've got about 45 minutes left, 40 to 45 minutes left. So I think we can have a strong discussion and learn a little bit more about our guests and our providers here in Park County. So Marilyn, Madam Chair, I'm going to hand it to you. So start with, they can introduce themselves.
Thank you. Mary Ann, will you start introducing yourself?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm Mary Ann Wysolowski, and I am the current president of the Seniors Alliance of Platte Canyon, located right here in Bailey. We are thrilled that you are here today. Thank you so much. We appreciate all of you being here today.
Danny?
Hello, I'm Penny Everest. I'm with the Park County Senior Coalition. I'm the current program manager and I think interim executive director. And I'm very, very happy to be here and very happy to share the information that I have with you.
Super.
I am Havens Gumpner. I'm with a member of the Silver Set Senior Group here in Bailey and happy to be here as well. Thank you for inviting us.
Well, thank you for all for coming. Since I started here, why don't we go forward and Mary Ann, you could give us some, what are your mission services and areas that you provide?
Sure. Thank you so much. The mission of the Seniors Alliance of Platte Canyon is to connect seniors from Pine Junction to Kenosha Pass through advocacy. So that's the 285 corridor up here in Northeast Park. And we connect seniors through advocacy, education, socialization, and local resources. To this end, we offer many opportunities for education and social offerings to enrich and help seniors live the way they wish to live for as long as they wish to live here in their mountain homes. We are a clearinghouse for senior resources available in our area. We publish a local resource guide and are in the process of updating it electronically for ease and access and for updating it, keeping it current. We maintain a nurse lending closet here where durable medical equipment is loaned for free. We have a brick and mortar office housed in the Bailey Community Center. We partner very closely with the Park County Senior Coalition to increase access to their services from our side of the pass. Let's see, I'm sorry, I lost my place. Storing shelf-stable food boxes for them, monitoring their food freezer in the same building as our office, and distributing frozen and shelf-stable food boxes to their clients when they cannot be present here in the Bailey area. We also partner with Mountain Resource Center to support their food van once a week at our site. We have an emergency fund for seniors who have urgent needs, such as car repair, appliance furnace repair, the firewood that you spoke of, home heating, etc. We serve all seniors and their families or caregivers in the northeast area of Park County, as I said, from Pine Junction to Kenosha Pass. And the issues we work on include advocating for more resources in our area, especially transportation to grocery stores and medical appointments. We have no grocery stores or medical care here in our area. We are a desert. Protecting senior access to voting is a recent thing we've added. Outreach and programming for seniors to improve social engagement, education to improve safety, such as wildfire evacuation classes, home fire mitigation, Medicare 101, which we partnered with you all here. Our watch party was right over at that table right here in the fire, because this was reliable internet here. Access to mental health, and support for establishing, hopefully, a future health service district in our area.
Wow, that's pretty good.
Thank you.
What she said.
Well, I'm going to ask her a couple of questions now. We'll see if she can do it
See how that goes. Do you have questions right now, or are we moving
No,
on?
I'm going to, if that's okay.
Why don't we hear from the others?
Okay.
Real quick, and then.
Go for it, Penny.
All right. Our mission basically is to keep seniors in their home as long as able. We provide chore, transportation, homemaker. We help the seniors with researching information, and we definitely partner a lot with the Alliance. Huge, huge thank you for all the things you do for us.
And for you as well.
Yes.
And as a member of Silver Set, we meet once a month to provide social interaction with our seniors with a lunch that's held at the Park County Community Center at Shawnee. And there are also some education, sometimes speakers, that draws a good number too, and also sometimes just entertainment, music entertainment. So we like to see our seniors socialize a little, and so we provide that once a month.
Do you have any interaction with the services that the other two provide?
We have information on our tables that the seniors can pick up, and of course, they do come in to some of our lunches and let us know about some of their services as well.
Wonderful.
Mhm.
So what are your three top needs? That's what we're here to be of help.
Right. Discussing with different seniors during the lunch time, we do find that transportation, a dedicated maybe van in the area to provide transportation to medical, dental, shopping excursions, and also more education in the areas that pertain to senior living. Such as health and area places where they can go for more social interaction. And of course, we do have that down the road a little bit at the senior center in Bailey. But we do, find that our number one priority is transportation, and then finding people to do our chores, just finding them, in our area. So.
Do you, when the transportation you're talking about, do you have ability to give them a ride down to some of their activities?
We do not at this time unless they can drive. I mean, unless a neighbor will take them. Yeah, we do not. We know that there is a lunch in Fairplay. We hear that there is a monthly lunch, and it would be nice if we could have some transportation via van that could take 6 to 8 people at a time to these excursions. Yeah, that would be good.
So are there anything that you're not doing yet, but would like to do, and that we've discussed the transportation?
Right. And then perhaps more in our group for the lunches, more speakers to come in and give more education about the different things that Cody talked about. And I think. Okay. Yeah, because we do buy the food for the lunches as well. Funding would be appreciated to buy that food. And we do hire someone to prepare that food. Currently, we do have someone coming into the center that will make our food for us, but we do have to, pay her a fee as well for that. And hopefully that doesn't cover 100% of her fees, but she's doing that as a community outreach.
That's wonderful.
So, yes.
I'm Frank Lynch. I'm also with Silver Set, and I've just become aware of a
Frank,
particular
would you move up to the microphone so our folks online can hear you?
There's a particular transportation problem that I'm aware of because I'm one of those neighbors that provides it for my friends to the extent that I can. And as we grow older, more and more of us are handicapped to the point where we really miss the ability to load people into cars, get them out of the cars, get them into our Silver Set luncheons, and get them home and put back into their homes comfortably. If my dear friend Glenda Marshall's a good example of that. She had her leg amputated above the knee about 4 years ago, and as I grow older, I'm no longer able to pick her up and throw her in my car like I did some time back. And I'm kind of thinking back to at one time the Senior Coalition had a bus, and I think it might have even had some wheelchair capability of loading people more easily than picking them up and putting them in my Honda. I think things have come a long way in the last few years too, in terms of appliances to help lift people out of wheelchairs, put them into their beds and things like that, or put them into a chair at Silverset. If there's any, if that falls into any of the funding categories that are available to help, I guess that service wouldn't go to Silverset, but perhaps Senior Coalition would benefit from having a vehicle like that. And I think there's a long story behind why we no longer have that bus that we used to have. It was involved with insurance and other issues, but we miss it. We especially in terms, and from my point of view, of being able to transport handicapped people. Glenda's not the only one.
Would you tell us your name again so those taking notes can?
Frank Lynch, Lynch.
Thank you, Frank.
I'm on the board of Silverset.
Thank you. Okay. Annie, I'm just going to slide down here. Okay. So what do you consider your top 3 needs?
One is definitely transportation. Huge request for that. A bus service, additional funding for chore and homemaker. It is all increasing tremendously. Just yesterday, I can tell you for an example, I did the drive down for Hartselle, Guffey, and Lake George to deliver food. I had over 55 boxes in my car and I couldn't see out of the back of the car. That's one of our largest runs yet. And so this is just increasing. I can't even begin to tell you, but maybe 5 to 10 people each month that are signing up for that service. I'm signing on about 5 new people, case management wise, and these people are all very desperate for the services that we provide.
Well, that's a big one right there.
Mm-hmm.
Are there things that you are not yet doing, but would like to?
Reassurance program that we started out, and I have it tabled right now because of some changes that are going on in our office. But I started that program actually, and I started calling some of the people to formulate the questions that we want to ask. And it actually started out quite well. And so I just have it held off to the side, and we want to get it started again.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Go ahead, ma'am.
The top 3 needs. I wasn't sure if this is in response to what the seniors need or what we as an organization need. We've talked about the seniors really needing the transportation. Our seniors go down to Denver. It's a really hard nut to crack. We've talked at great length. I've been on the PPACG transit, Park County Transit and Transportation meetings, continuing to work on this one. We will get it someday, as Scarlett O'Hara would say, as God is my witness. So we will make this work. Local healthcare, really trying to elicit some community support behind establishing a health service clinic here, which would help. If we can get the seniors to their care, maybe we can get the care here to our seniors. A lot easier to ask for a ride down, 10 minutes down to a clinic right here in the Crow Hill area versus getting all the way to Denver. It's a very tough thing. But as far as our priorities as the Seniors Alliance of Platte Canyon, our first one would be to secure grants to hire a half-time office manager. We are all volunteers, and we are pretty much at the limit of what our volunteers can provide for that support, and a half-time staff would greatly increase our ability to conduct outreach, increase social and educational programming, and increase our efficiency in responding to our seniors. Right now, they'll call a couple of days later and talk to a different volunteer that they then they have to tell their story.
Over.
Right. So we're really trying to streamline that. Our second need is support in skills and technology, because we ourselves are seniors, and we would like to have a much more robust, engaging website and Facebook, again, to really conduct that outreach out here. Facebook is how people talk here. We don't have like a community center. Our community center that they call right now, where our office is, has an occupancy of 14. And we are a community of 11,000 here in the Platte Canyon area. So Facebook and all that. So our digital outreach, We're looking for help in that. We have a security company that's helping us with like doing online donations and ticket reservations to some of our events, but we need more than that. Our third is a strong grant writer to help us get all these things that we're looking for. So those would be our three as far as our organization goes. I think that, you know, one of our huge strengths is partnering with the coalition and trying to get that whole outreach connected together.
We can learn grants together.
Oh, good. Okay.
So as you have your top three needs and you have needs, how do those blend together where you could be supportive of each other?
It does.
It does. Yeah. Well,
it's already happening. We
It is?
definitely
Good.
work well with each other.
Yeah, because initially we came into existence 4 years ago because we did feel a dearth of services here. The food wasn't getting over Kenosha Pass. It's actually 2 passes. I mean, Park County has 7 mountain passes. And so for seniors to get to where they need to be 8 months of the year with weather is very difficult. And so with the new director that you just had, and with Penny, I mean, the services have quadrupled, I think, on our side in the last 2 years. Huge positive partnership. So we have an office where we can be there when you can't because you're in Fairplay. Because we have an office 4 days a week, we are there. If somebody comes in and needs something, we can either give them an application for them. We can give them the food that's being stored. So we are like boots on the ground here on this side to help support those services, but also because we are we are private and don't have some of the restrictions of the funding, we can use our funds for those places where seniors might fall in the cracks, where you might not be able to give them the resources from people, you know, from the coalition, but we have that little extra money on the side where we can help them out. So that's how I see us partnering.
Yes, I agree.
Okay.
And Silverset, how far are you from this office she's talking about?
Just a few miles down to 85. They do know of the office and they do access some of the food boxes as well. And they have increased the number of places that they can deliver those. So that's helpful for them to get to certain areas rather than going all the way down the hill to Bailey, which for some of them, so we have like 2 other places where they can pick those up. So that is helpful. But again, sometimes neighbors will call and say, can you get that for me? Because I'm not able to, you know, drive there. So, you know, a neighbor will do that for them to pick up the boxes.
Well, it looks like you are interacting with each other.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Well, I'm pleased to hear that. Jody, did you have any further questions?
For context, I thought I would love to speak to the what we've just started calling the freezer project. During the time of COVID, when there were a lot of challenges in reaching out to the communities, we were also receiving some additional COVID funding, CARES Act funding. And so Jenny Danner, who was the prior executive director of Park County Senior Coalition, she and I and a couple of staff members were in a meeting one day, and we started just brainstorming. How can we make that better? How can we make it better? More accessibility, make that easier for folks to access those foods, whether it's wintertime or otherwise. You know, life gets in the way, even if it's a pretty sunny day. And so how do we make sure that we get that? So the idea around the freezer boxes really morphed a lot during conversation. Everything from freezers inside of bear-proof boxes, animal-proof boxes, housed at locations, running electricity, pouring concrete pads. It morphed in a variety of ways. And one of the encouragement that I gave to Jenny was bring this up at your next opportunity with the county commissioners. The county commissioner said, you know, what if we just gave you space in community buildings across the county takes care of the electricity because it's already there. It takes care of the animal concern that obviously was a big concern of hers. And to get a bear box that big either means a giant big box, very expensive, or a very tiny freezer. And so their offer of providing space across the county in publicly accessed space, their community centers here in Park County, enabled them to put more money towards food because they didn't have to provide all the other, they didn't have to pour concrete, they didn't have to run electrical, they didn't have to have the specialty locks that would have been required. And because our federal and state funding requires match, either through in-kind or cash, free rent counted towards that. And so Park County Senior Coalition did not have to provide or bring extra money to the table in order to access that funding. And so it took, I think, around 9 or 10 months to get all of the freezers brought in, installed, all the temperature gauges and all the important stuff that is required under the funding. But this kind of conversation, and I've heard other stories how it has been implemented, just warms my heart to no end, because we can show that as a partnership and a collaboration between organizations. We can show that between organization and county structure. We can show that partnership and collaboration because I know there are a lot of volunteers involved in supporting that freezer project, whether it's filling the freezer or delivering for individuals who may not be able to solicit that. And so we continue to provide the funding into Park County Senior Coalition for the frozen foods that are there. So it's now, while it was initially considered an emergency type project, it's now a regular program within Park County Senior Coalition, and the funding continues there. So we're really excited about that. Just wanted to throw that in, provide some context, especially since we have a couple of new members, and just what that collaboration can look like. I would also encourage our other two, we're going to call you partners, because you're partners down the line, because you partner with Park County Senior Coalition, to continue thinking about ideas. I tell our current providers, you don't have to have all the answers before you call me and say, hey, can I talk? I'm currently back and forth with one of our providers. He's notorious for calling me about 5:15 in the evening after they get out of a staff meeting and say, hey, I want to run something by you. This conversation came up. Can we do it? Can we put that in our next contract? Can I use my current funding for that? That is the kind of collaboration that we invite. And I'm saying that in a public forum with my board next to me. We invite that. Just a phone call. For us, yes, we have our specific areas that we have to fund, that we manage our conversations sometimes a little differently between those who are contracted funded providers and those who are community partners. But the invitation remains the same. Call us. Reach out. Hey, do you know somebody that does this? Hey, who could we talk to about that? Who can we add to our directory? I'm thinking, Mary Ann, let's get a copy of your directory and make sure that we have make sure that we have the same information into our next printing of our yellow book, because we have an entire Park County section in there. So we want to make sure that that information is there. But making sure that now that we know, it's that classic, what did we know and when did we know it? Now, what are we going to do with what we know? For us, as the Area Agency on Aging and the Regional Advisory Council, several of our members volunteer at the Area Agency on Aging, answering phones, providing those referrals. Now they know. Now they know where they can send folks. If someone's looking for social engagement, where can I go for lunch? Where can I go? Where can I go get a meal? Where? Well, We know Park County Senior Coalition, it's automatically part because of one of our contracted funded providers. But now we have even more, and I love that. And that's, of course, that's something that we've offered, but I love hearing this collaboration amongst the three organizations, because then we don't have to sort it out. You all live here and know what is going to be best for that individual. Mary Ann?
I just wanted to add a couple more because I see that CSU is not here today, but for the last year and a half, we met once a month with Jenny Danner, the coalition director, the Senior Alliance, and then Barbie with the CSU Extension. She's the CSU Extension officer here in Bailey. And we would meet once a month to try to think about things to develop programming for aging, how we can all collaborate, bring some education in. We had kitchen herbs. There was a book project, some other things. And so as things are changing with your organization, I mean, we anticipate that we will continue to have that three-way and invite more, obviously, but at least those three, that we can have those monthly meetings and try to come up with some aging things. Extension has a lot of aging in their wheelhouse, and so we're tapping into that as well.
I have worked with Barbie on a
Yeah,
lot
Barbie
of those
Garnett,
over
yeah.
the years, so that's very
So
exciting.
wanted to let you know we were meeting once a month there. We developed a wildfire evacuation class, Senior Alliance did, with FAB, Fire Adaptive Bailey, and then the fire chief here, Chief Ben. And we run those in the spring when they're not out fighting fires. And those are very popular. At least 60 people come. We run it twice a spring, so 120 people each year. We've done it for 2 years after COVID. And the reason we do that is, you probably know the statistics as much as we do, that 70% of the fatalities in natural disasters are people over the age of 65. And we just saw it in Hawaii. Right. And we see it everywhere. It's very important that we're in a very high wildfire danger zone, that we help our seniors have a plan to evacuate, have the support they need. We've offered to share this around the county. We can share it with whoever. It's no magic. There's no proprietary, thing to this. It's something we've developed. It's been really, really well received. People practice their plan at home. And so that's something we do as well. And there's a lot of other partners that we partner with here. The Resource Center with the Food Van, Community Human Services, Public Health Agency, Mental Health Alliance, and Mount Evans with their foot clinic. So just wanted to share with you that we're always open for new partnerships.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much, Mary Ann. The last thing we have, Melissa has put up a sheet of paper up here that we're going to be delving into after our formal meeting and really talking about our action items. So again, what did we know? When did we know it? And what are we going to do about it? Right. So we're hearing now, and we're going to be taking some more notes at our later meeting. But I would encourage now an opportunity for folks. We've talked about transportation. Yes, just a moment. Yes.
There's people on the council.
Okay, sure. And so we will move into that. So if you are one that is staying for our next discussion after the RAC meeting, be thinking about that, because it's not just lunch, it's work. We're going to put you to work because I already have ideas, and some of those, they may take further conversation and action. So I want to go ahead and make sure Chair Marilyn can see you. So if there are any members of the Regional Advisory Council here in the room that have any questions, I'd also invite Regional Advisory Council members online. If you have a question, please use the raise hand function. If you have any questions, and so I'm going to let Chair Marilyn continue this portion of the meeting.
Go ahead, Debbie.
So I have a question. I'm just a little confused. Is there a formal congregate meal site in Park County at all?
I'll answer part of that. There
Okay.
is none funded through us.
Okay.
So that's an important distinction, even though our organizations, Silver Set has their luncheon. I believe there was mentioned the lunch and fair play. Best, I will tell you, side note, you can edit this out, Jared, but some of the best lasagna I've ever had in my life was at the senior center lunch in Fairplay a few years ago. But there's no formal congregate meal program
Okay.
funded
So,
through our fund.
so do we fund home delivered meals or shelf stable meals or?
Yeah, so traditionally, of course, frozen meals, shelf stable meals are considered emergency meals. That is actually how we fund home delivered meals in Park County. So it is an ongoing, regular, and I will let Penny speak more to that specifically around the freezer project.
Oh, and then my next question was, you have a lunch once a month. Where do you have that? Where do you have that lunch?
That is at the Park County a Community Center at Shawnee. So that is the second Friday of every month.
Okay.
Starting September through May. We do not meet in the summer months. And again, that is not funded by anyone other than, our participants coming in. But what they pay for those lunches goes towards the person that's preparing it and the buying of the food.
Okay.
So
So then my just obviously my thinking is, so there is kind of a congregate meal going on once a month in Park County. I'm just wondering whether, I need to think about how we can actually fund that or extend that.
Questions around.
So that's why I need to give
Here, behind you, the gentleman behind you.
I'm Frank Rowe.
Hi, up at the mic.
Yes. I'm Frank Rowe with the Silver Set. There is also another food that's being brought in from Mountain Resource Center. They meet down at the Bailey Senior Alliance, and they meet over here at the ponds at just coming up like once a week. And they provide meat and food, vegetables, whatever. And I know a lot of people do attend that, especially down in Bailey. And so that's not a meal, but it's food that's probably lasts for several days.
Right.
So that is another source.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Jen, you had asked.
So I'm Jen with Colorado Community Health Alliance. This is separate options in transportation from the Regional Advisory Council. Colorado Community Health Alliance is Medicaid. For those that kind of mix them up, there's Medicare and there's Medicaid. And there are many folks who have Medicaid as a secondary payer for their coverage. Medicaid provides transportation, individual transportation for your medical appointments. So if you have anybody that's coming to your meals or your lunches, we would love to come and present and share that information with you. I shared the website with Jared so that he can forward that along and attach with the meeting. But they will provide individual transportation, whether that's a van or a wheelchair access van even. It really depends on what the member needs, and they'll schedule it in advance. So we would love to be able to provide those services to the folks in these counties.
Medicaid is income based.
Yes.
Bill?
Well, I just wanted to point out that a lot of what we're saying here applies to this part of the county. We're so scattered in the southern part. We do try to get together once a month in the Lake George Community Center, but the daily bit and everything, the community center is 15 miles for me to go, and I'm one of the closer ones. So we got to keep in mind that we're basically two separate counties in a lot of this ways. Kenosha Pass East, you're basically metropolitan. To the south and west, yeah, I got a neighbor over there a mile or so away. That's just something to keep in mind.
It's a meal bill that you're talking about that at that community center?
Right, we're trying to get one together to a meal once a month anyway, but
And how is that funded?
we aren't getting very many. Not many show up because
Just
it's getting them there. So
Honey Everest, we do a brunch once a month in Fair Play for the Fair Play people in that area. It's not funded. Everybody brings something, a side dish, and it has grown in size. We offer also some learning. The last one that we had was Colorado Legal Services and what you do for the final stages of life. And we had a good 20 people there, and the questions were nonstop. And so it was perfect. We did elder abuse, we did Alzheimer's. Each and every time we pick up more and more people who really want to know about this, and they find their ways into town. People pick them up, bring them in, but that would increase tremendously if we had some service that would pick them up and bring them. Mary Ann?
I just wanted to clarify a little bit. While we are close to Denver, we are not a metropolitan. There are people who are 15, 20 miles away from where we are sitting right now that are Bailey. And if you drive through on, even just down the hill to the other little district here, there's 11,000 people here, but you don't see 11,000 people right here because we're all tucked up in the hills. At night, we look like stars in the sky with our little pinpoints of light, but we are quite rural. And an example would be, one of our things was a senior had oxygen delivery and the truck could not get to their house. The road was not conducive to that truck getting up there. So we put together a little, two of our volunteers with an SUV that went 4-wheel drive, took the oxygen up to her from the truck, met the truck in town, went up. So we are really quite rural as well. And it is very difficult to get people where they need to be when they need to be there, just for the record.
Okay, we've got maybe 3 minutes left. Is there any more questions from the council?
Any questions online from our board member participants? All right. Any last thoughts from our panel? And thanks again so much for being with us today. Frank, number one.
I did have a thought when we were talking about broadband access. I've just been through a real adventure for my own purposes, and I found out that hotspot on your cell phone is the cost-effective access to high-speed internet for many of us who don't have to have 24-hour-a-day availability. If you could plan a little bit and use the limited amount of data available to you from your cell phone, as long as everybody is aware of that service. I've just let go of my satellite service that's too slow and too intermittent. And I had a dedicated hotspot that was costing me $90 a month, and I found out I can just do it all with this. So I hope everybody's aware of that option.
That's
Thank
neat.
you for sharing that. That's really important. I used to use a hotspot a number of years ago when my job, because I was out in the rural. So pay attention. That's a good alternative.
Hand me the speaker.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, just on that vein, just a thought popped in my head. I've been in recent not negotiations, but speaking with the superintendent of the schools here. And we're trying to put together some tech classes for seniors who would not know how to use some of the things that we could use. Our smartphone is only as smart as we are, as my kids tell me. So we're trying to put together some stuff for the seniors in high school or the high school kids who are, so adept. And do a multi-generational, really involve a community aspect to that, where they'll teach us how to use our stuff. And so that I want to put that out there because I think that's a really great thing that can be anywhere. It can be in the middle of the Springs. It could be out in the communities, anywhere there's a school district. I think we should be able to partner with those kids and get some of that technology. Because that's, as we age, those personal assistants that are techie, the Alexa or some of those, I think are going to be really important for some of our seniors.
Well, also just occurred to me, there is a category like with Xfinity and some of the other carriers that is based on income. So you might want to check that out too. I don't remember the name of it. Yes.
Frank Rowe from Somerset, and I forgot to announce that Life Bridge is another food bank down in Bailey, real close to the Senior Alliance Community Center. But on let's see, Friday, 3:00, they're open for a couple hours, and they have food donated from like Denver and all over the place. And Somerset picks up food at where is it? Grocery store. And we donate a lot of food from the Safeway stores, what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
And they're also open from 9 to noon on Saturday. And they have a lot of stuff, and a lot of it comes from Denver, all donated. It's all free. And
thank you.
I'm not sure what the qualifications are. I think anybody can sign up.
Fantastic.
On that same note, the Harris Park Bible Church has today, this afternoon, a food bank called the Widow's Oil Pantry. And they work with the other centers, and they trade food and do whatever they can to make the best use of the resources that we get in our
Do they know
community.
you exist?
They are in Park County.
So do you collaborate? Does each of you know the other exists, like some of these outside
I do
pantry
know
groups?
of some collaboration, at least with the Bailey.
Yeah, I know we both get food from Safeway. We've got separate days, but they're a long ways off. So
From each other as well.
yeah.
Okay. Fantastic.
Well, I had another question.
Yes, sir.
What is the current transportation mode? Penny, what do we do to get transportation somewhere? What's the method, the process? How do we get that?
Our transportation program, it doesn't pick anybody up or drop anybody off. What we do is you can either drive yourself or have a relative or a friend drive you to either the supermarket or to a medical appointment, save the receipts, turn them back in on a voucher program, and we refund 56 cents a mile.
Did you have those forms?
Yes.
Okay, I'd like some before we leave today. Thank you.
Thank you. Those are great questions. Appreciate the information you've shared with us. Yes, Ben.
Yes, and just a sort of a final statement. Since I've joined the coalition in a year, I've seen it grow tremendously, and I'm always in awe of it. And I love it that I'm able to help seniors. But one step further, that the Alliance partners with us, and what a huge strength that is. Also, Silverset, we need to strengthen our ways of combining. So the only thing I could say is that looking into the future, I'm really hoping that we're able to help at least another 50% of our customers and, get them taken care of. They are always in awe of everything that we do. I can't tell you how many times they thank me when I deliver food or they come into the office and drop forms off. So
thank you. it's good to see it from two directions. One is what can we do to help? But it's also nice to know that help is appreciated. Yes. Well, our next meeting will be September 28th at the PPAG. The conference room.
And for those of you who are not aware, all of our meetings are virtual as well. So just like we are here physically, but we have virtual attendance, we do the same thing with our in-person meetings at the PPACG office in Colorado at the bottom of Ute Pass. And so you are always welcome to join because it is a public meeting, and we appreciate your attendance as well. So
meeting is adjourned.
Meeting is adjourned. All right.